So you want to work in big tech companies like Google and Facebook. So you want to work in big tech companies like Google and Facebook, or create your own startup like Airbnb and Instagram. OmniQuotient is here to help. OmniQuotient is an online learning platform where you can learn something new from prominent developers every day while creating meaningful connections with them. Just go to omniquotient.com. Follow the topics that you want to learn and the developers you want to learn from. Share your tips and tricks in coding and interact with other developers. Join the OmniQuotient community today.
What I've seen that hinders a lot of people in general is they believe that doing their job well actually gets them promoted.
How would you demystify AI for a 10-year-old?
It's actually harder to explain AI to an older person. Hi, welcome to CTOs Discuss.
Hi! Welcome
Hello.
to CTOs Discuss. Wala pa rin akong video, guys, until now.
Welcome everybody.
Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us again this Saturday evening. So, Bert, tonight is pretty special.
Yes, it is special, not only for our viewers, but I think special to me as well, because I am actually so excited to learn about quality assurance, quality engineering. This is one of those domains that I kind of know of, but I haven't really gone deep into it. So I'm very, very, very curious about this.
I think you'll be in for a treat then tonight, because we don't just have a special guest speaker, no, or someone who's joining us this evening. It's not often that we actually invite pioneers in a certain industry to join us in an episode of CTOs Discuss. But our guest for tonight is Mitch Lagare. So Mitch has been in the software testing industry for more than 2 decades now, and she actually has coined the term quality engineering and pioneered that in Asia back in 2013. So you guys should feel special, guys, for being graced by Mitch this evening. So with that said, please bring her to the stage, guys.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Mitch.
Grabe,
Thanks
I feel
for joining
old.
us. Ano?
Yeah.
I feel old.
Di naman.
Well, you don't look
Experience na,
old.
pwede na.
I was
sige.
shocked when you said 2 decades. Actually, I was like, "What? No way, no way!" So that's pretty amazing. I also one thing that Mitch is also part of. She's a community builder. She's she leads a community called Quality
QE.
Engineering. QE is the new QA.
Yeah.
That's the name. That's a very interesting name, because QE
Could
is
you
the
tell
new
us more
QA.
about that, Mitch?
The community or QE?
Yeah, the community.
Okay.
We
Community
can start with
muna.
the community. Yeah.
Sige. Yes. So, probably I should define first QE so that they can understand yung when I keep on saying QE. So, QE means quality engineer. So, a quality engineer is a hybrid of a manual tester and a programmer, or someone who can do both manual testing and automation. So QE is the new QA community is started as an advocacy of mine to help Filipino QAs to level up sa map of testing parang community globally. So we know that when most of the times, or especially when I was starting, because yes, you mentioned how many years of experience I have.
Nakalagay lang yun sa graphic natin.
It's always
Go ahead, Mitch.
It's always separated kasi. There's a manual QA team, and then there's also the automation team. But then as the industry mature and become more aggressive, and ngayon pa marami pang startups, di ba? Nakikita natin na they only have very few resources, and yung resource pa doon, parang ilan ba doon yung na-allocate for quality? Most of the times, and you can ask Guru, si Albert then later on, do you have a head count at all for quality? Kasi most of them, they don't. So, the more na yung pressure for the QAs tumataas. Most of them in the community, they will tell me that Miss Mitch, I'm having a hard time to get a new job because they're always looking for automation, and I don't have any automation experience. And right now, the company would not give me any training at all. So even the time or the budget for that. So with the community, our purpose is to help them. Bits parang every meetup before, especially during the before the pandemic, we have a monthly meetup na ginagawa namin is to have just like this one pero physical. And then there's a speaker about pwedeng automation technology or a platform or new testing practices so that everyone gets to be up to date kahit papano every month. So that's the community.
Okay,
Cool,
that's
cool.
pretty cool. Maybe we'll kick it off with that, right? Like you mentioned about how you're helping the quality assurance people, QA
Mm-hmm.
people become quality engineering people. I mean, you mentioned that people are having a hard time getting a job. Our topic is careers in IT.
Yes.
Is this quality uh, engineering quality assurance space, like, is it dying? Is it growing? Why should people? Is this a viable option moving forward if people are choosing about their career, like now, like at the start of their career, right? Like they get just getting out of college, or they're starting like their college university time. Like, is this a valid career path? Like, why should they consider this?
Mm. Firstly, I want to address yung ano muna, parang coming from the academe. It is rarely discussed, not even a subject. Siguro out of I can parang count less than 10 within the country that offers subject pa lang ha, subject in
Mm,
software testing or software quality. Kaya not all graduates or majority of the graduating students, they don't know anything about QA or QE, all the more. But it is a very marketable and very
Yeah.
in demand role. So as you can see, when there are graduates, most of them, yung skills na binibenta nila is about programming. Kasi for like 4 to 5 years, 2 to 3 years at the very least is focused on programming, right? But
right.
so paglabas nila, that's all they are applying for. I want to be a programmer. But yung quality, when you are experienced in, you have a good foundation in programming, and you also you have the creativity, then mas marketable ka. uh, I think Jer knows
No,
how
yeah,
hard it is to find QEs, and
yeah,
all the more now when you find one, you can actually demand. Well, of course, you can demand depending on the skill you have on your
yeah,
capacity talaga. But
yeah,
it's it in my previous company, same lang ng rate ang developer and QE. Kasi we're also engineers. So actually you can demand more because ang dami mong competitor. Sa programmers, there are so many applicants. But then for QEs, very limited. Kung pumasaman pa sila. So, you
yeah.
can actually ask more.
Yeah, it's actually something that's like often not so much a priority, right? And I think this is like we've talked about this in parang previous episodes also before na siguro depending on the size of the enterprise or the company, most likely the QA function could be shared between the product manager or product owner and then at the same time the developers, no? Kasi syempre as a developer, we usually test the code that we develop, right? That it works. Bago natin ibigay sa product manager, "Uy, gumagana na 'to." And usually talaga tinetest, no, pinapatest. Like I was a product manager before. I used to do testing. I used to make sure that my products would work para bago ko ma-release sa customers, they would have a very good experience. But I guess as that role kind of gets added more responsibility on, for example, financial monitoring, mas nagiging tutok mo kasi is P&L. So you really wouldn't have a lot of time. P&L pala guys is profit and loss. So kukonti yung time mo to test your products. And so roles like this would actually be needed, no? Kasi hindi ka naman super expert and like what you said kanina, Mitch, no, na um automation kasi nga especially if you cannot afford to have like if it's a really big product then there's a lot of test cases. Sobrang dami mong ite-test.
Yes.
Nakaka-login ka ba? Yung lahat ng parameters no like yung password, can you reset it, etc. Are there bugs? All of that it's a job for multiple persons. And so if hindi mo automate yan, medyo heavy ka in terms of manpower cost no
Yes.
whereas if you were skilled in automation pwede mo siyang gawan ng automation
Leverage.
scripts, oo, para
Sandali lang.
oo, sandali lang siya. Oo, 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 oo.
Eh,
Siguro Mitch, can you introduce your company and what you guys offer before we proceed with asking more questions, I guess. I think we have a very good lineup of questions
Yeah, medyo
tonight.
nag-start tayo agad. Yan, pero again, thank you everyone. I'm Michelle Lagare. I'm the founder and president of QE360. So QE360 is a company that focuses on software testing or quality engineering, training, consulting, and outsourced testing services. So actually, nag-evolve kami because of the community feedback that I've been getting, and of course, yung experience ko rin sa different companies that I see that most of them, they don't have a lot of, if not, kung meron man at all, they don't have enough resources for testers or quality engineers and then yung timeline pa, mabilisan, the more aggressive you are, the less time na nagkakaroon tayo. So, that's where we actually uh, came from. Yung parang idea na we need to help address the companies with these challenges na are very rampant in different companies. Regardless kung big enterprise ka or startup ka, nagiging common na siya. So, that's how we started as a company.
Cool. How did you so you mentioned I think Albert also no was it you or Albert that mentioned na straight out of college 'di ba usually pagka engineer ka programming that's all you know kasi you
Yes.
spent 3 years of your school life no programming no how did you naman like personally come across this career as
Mm-hmm.
QA or QE and let's start there parang how did you discover this career or how did you get
two
into the
decades ago.
Let's
Oo.
meet. Okay. Um, let me start siguro when I was going to college. So I actually wanted, just like you, I wanted to, well, your parents wanted you to go to the line of medicine, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Ikaw,
Oo.
Jerv, right? So
Oo,
ako,
oo.
I also want to be in medicine.
Oo.
So when I was in fourth year college, all of my friends, they're taking entrance exams in different universities. But then my father, he said na parang, sabi ni, the late Senator Juan Flavier, he said in 2014. So, pwede na yung, ayan, magiging boom, 2004 pala, sorry, 2004, magiging boom yung IT na career. So, sabi ko noon, okay, but I wanted to take medicine. So, I took the entrance exam for the university that my father wanted me to be in. And
Yeah.
IT yung pinakuha niya kasi nga that's the future sabi
Magiging
niya.
boom.
So
Oo.
so I said okay, I took it already ganyan. And then the next time I was going out again, I was about to go to UST to take an entrance exam naman. Sabi, where are you going? I was like, to take an entrance exam. You already did that. Yes, for one university. And I actually didn't want that. So he said,
It's a
no, that's
trap.
enough. That's enough. He said, I was like, why are you going there anyway? He said, I wanted to take medicine. He said, no, we cannot. I don't think I can let you, parang, I can support you. Kasi, di ba, mahal,
Mm.
matagal, ganyan.
Oo, oo.
And, so yun, napilitan ako, nag-IT ako, and we were actually the first batch then of IT graduates that
Wow.
time. And then, I took several roles before I found out that I want to be a QA back then.
Mm.
So I was the first role was dev slash tech writer slash, well, yeah, no QA then on the latter part. So and then the second company, tech writer slash QA. And then third company, tech writer, tapos naging BA. And then fourth company and so on, QA. So that's when I said na, okay, this is what I wanted to focus on. So you should when you are fresh grad, you don't know really what you want to be in a permanent, parang longer term. So that's when I realized that I want to be a QA. And then back in 2013, Voyager called me for an interview for a QA manager position. And then Voyager is a mobile first company. So every application, mobile app version muna before the web app. So I already knew back then that they need someone who can automate. But back then, my experience for automation was more of record and play, which is really not automation kasi you really have to go back kapag meron change and so on. So, what I did then, I already knew na medyo malayo ako siguro dito. I might not pass itong application. But I told my husband that I want to have a MacBook Air so that I can automate an iOS application. So, regardless if I pass or fail, I gain the skill.
Yeah.
You
So,
bought a
thankfully,
MacBook Air for an
yes,
interview?
after an
Wow.
interview.
Okay,
After
wow.
a
Commitment.
final interview. So, yep. So, good thing for some reason they hired me still, even if I don't have a background in automation. But that's when I realized that I need my engineering skills again. So, first company ko kasi I was a dev. We were doing embedded software, embedded systems for electronic weighing scales. We use Visual C++. But back then I wasn't really feeling it talking to the computer, desktop pa nun. I was like pointing to the monitor, the value for this variable will be this, and then you will get this value and so on. I was like, I don't like this because I'm really a social person. So I left the engineering or the programming role and then focused on QA. But thanks to Voyager, I realized that okay, I can still leverage on that skill even if I want to focus on quality. So medyo mahaba, but that's how I end up with being a QE. And that's the time na we were posting QE posts, QE job posts, but no one was applying because they basically don't know what a QE is. So kasi yun nga nag-coin kami ng term na quality engineer, but it's so new. No one knew what's QE. So that's when we also started I started advocacy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, maybe you can describe what is a day like in a QA, or what is a week like? Regular activities of a Q engineer, responsibilities, QE
So
engineer, quality engineer.
quality engineer. So for quality engineers, of course, we participate with the sprints. Say if we're in a
Oh, okay.
Scrum team, of all of the Scrum events, and then we create the pwedeng if you are in traditional testing, so test cases, pero you're also doing the automation. So it depends on the agreement within the company, the definition of done. Do you want the automation of of the user story done within the same sprint or after two sprints and so on? So we automate those, and lucky you if you are supporting different platforms. Say,
Why, why?
I know teams that they only have one resource,
Yeah.
one QE supporting web application, API, Android,
Yeah.
iOS. So,
Yeah.
Android pa lang, if you are testing an Android application, just imagine how many combinations of different makes and OSs, yung maker, yung model and OSs. Tapos,
Were you
you're going
sarcastic
to
when you said lucky you?
yes. Pero
Okay, I was
lucky
like,
you din because you learn a lot and in a
okay.
faster manner,
In
and it
that
makes
sense,
you grow.
lucky
Yes,
you.
yes.
Lucky.
Cool.
In
Yeah.
two ways.
Okay, yeah.
Go
Sobrang
ahead. Go
ano,
ahead.
sobrang nakaka ano siya. It's I don't want to sound like it's a scary role, but
Mm.
then it really stretches you to grow. Yun nga, if you are in a company na ikaw yung lone QE, or even if QA nga lang eh, kung mag-isa ka lang, just imagine how many platforms you need to support, the teams you need to support.
Yeah.
I know of teams that they have several developers for web, several developers for API and so on, but you are testing all of those. So just imagine that. So
Mitch,
ano,
it
it's
sounds like a
really
lonely job. Like, why should
no,
people
it's
do
not.
this? Oh,
No,
yeah,
it's
okay.
not
Maybe talk
alone
about why is it not a lonely job, even though like
because you
mag-isa ka
talk.
lang, you know?
You talk to people even if
Okay.
you're the lone QE. You talk to the product owner, to the
Mm,
developers. You have lots of opportunities to interact with people
got
of
it.
from the scrum team and even the product owner. It's actually, I can't remember if it's back in 2018, it was top 4 in the happiest role.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not sure if sa IT industry lang, but it is. It's really first, even if you're finding faults or challenges or problems within the applications, it's actually fun. Depends if that's
Ma
what you want.
it's more fun to be a critic kasi, Mitch, eh. Yung
Yes.
work ng mga engineers. Ano mo na, parang mali 'to, parang
You
ganyan.
missed
That,
this.
yeah,
You
is that,
missed
ano,
this.
You missed
question,
this. I
question.
saw this one. Oo. Go, Bert, go.
There's memes going around, right? Like where
Mhm.
developers hate quality. I don't know if they hate QA, but they,
QAs,
QE,
oo.
but they definitely hate QA memes, right? And QA,
Oo.
Mhm.
its mission is to destroy the dev's work, right? Like, what is your thoughts on this? Is this true? When is it not true? Oh my gosh, is it true?
Well, don't take it personally. For us kasi, it's just our work.
Oo.
We need to find, that's our work eh. We need to find the challenges, the problems within the
Yeah.
application that you may have missed. So before, that was very real na in the industry na the devs hate the QAs because it's like saying your baby's ugly, right? Imagine
Ah,
that you've
oo.
spent hours working on a project, a module, a feature, and then I will tell you, there's a bug. Oh, it's crashing. So
Oo.
how would you feel? So it's really just a matter of how will you say it as a QA or QE, and how will the dev accept it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I remember like in one
pero
DevCon,
kailangan mo rin
there
talagang i-befriend yung devs para they will also appreciate it. Sorry, go.
I remember in one DevCon event, parang there was an intermission and parang mga hugot ng mga developers na parang QA ka ba? Tapos sinabi ng yung girl na bakit? Tapos sabi nung guy, kasi puro na lang mali ko yung nakikita mo eh.
Aray.
Yeah,
Parang sa
yeah.
mag-boyfriend, girlfriend yun.
Parang ganun,
Yeah.
parang ganun. Anyways. But I think this is really part of delivering quality software, right? Kasi you would rather prefer that na failing faster or getting, noticing or seeing all those errors or issues ahead of time before your actual users
Yeah.
actually experience them, and that's really the role of QA in the organization and enterprise, no. Yeah. And ano ako kanina, like yung sinabi mo, Mitch, na sa Android, 'di ba, sobrang daming OS
Mm-mm.
platforms.
Yes.
And that's why I think part of the role of the QA actually, and it's not often naman, well, minsan lonely talaga yung na job kasi nga parang minsan na nagiging ano siya, parang afterthought, or parang it's a result of something happened. I think we need to have a quality assurance team
Yeah.
kasi nami-miss lagi ng developers. Parang nagiging afterthought siya. But I think it's quite important actually for QA to also negotiate kasi you have a timeline, right? 'Di ba, in a project there's like the three points, like the triangle. Fresh off kasi kami sa project management
Yeah, I
na
heard that.
episode. Yung scope, yung time, and then the cost, right? So if the time is parang set, then we need to adjust the scope. So meaning, often, I remember as a product owner before, I used to really say na limit natin is we will not support previous OS up to this lang, no? Kasi if itetest mo yun lahat, matatagalan ka talaga, no? And at the same time,
Yes.
kung lalo na may mga unsupported na kasi ng mga bagong lumabas na wala na siyang backward compatibility, if you wanna support those previous OS pa, additional work pa yun sa developers mo, 'di ba? So kasama yun sa role ng QA na parang product manager or product owner or business owner. Do you want to support all of this or do we just limit na okay, ito yung target natin na ma-support, 'di ba? Would you agree?
Yes, definitely. And hindi lang siya I mean, for in my company or even in my previous companies, I always tell my team members to be assertive. It's not just the time. Say, madalas nagde-dev sleep, aminin niyo to. Nagde-dev sleep, right? Na you were expecting to receive a build on this date, pero madalas na pupush, na delay. And then of course, the timeline on the release,
Yeah.
sometimes hindi naman din move, hindi naman din
Last touch si QA.
flexible. Especially if
Oo.
you're in a big company, tapos sasabihin nila na, hindi na kasi na-publish na yan, magkakaroon tayo ng launch, may event, ganyan. So, it's very critical. So, I always tell my team to be assertive, to raise questions and concerns ahead of time. Not only when it's already due date or nearing due date, na parang, pag nakikita niya na, okay, the application quality level is not that parang releasable, or I would not be confident with it to be released at this point. I think we need more time. So that's one quality of a QE or QA na dapat meron. Yung pagiging assertive, and of course, aside na dun yung mga pagiging analytical. Pero when you talk about timeline, they should be aware. Hindi lang talaga assertive, aware din sila na okay, knowing my team, I think madedelay na naman to. So I need to maybe remind them. Sometimes parang PM na rin kami na parang, uy guys, meron na ba? Or I think na parang we should be getting this build right now or yesterday.
Correct.
Nakatakot ba?
I have two questions. Trying to relate these two things. So the first question is coming from your consulting background, right? When should companies, startups, or corporations, teams developing software, when should they consider having QE as a dedicated role? Because usually, like I think when they start out, as Jerb said, it's like it's not let's hire QE on day one. I'm not so sure if that really happens. So when should they consider to have that? Is that something you see that will continue to grow in the future? And then the second question is like, if I am an applicant or if I am a person considering a career in QE, what kind of company should I target? Right? Is it like what are my options? Is it startups? Is it only big companies? Is it like what my options?
Okay. Sige. For the first one, when to hire QE. So I would, yes, most of the times, parang, especially for startups, they would not hire QEs as the same time na nag-hire sila ng dev because they want to deliver first, of course, with the budget that they have. But when you are planning to release something already, kung R&D lang, it's okay. I mean, being realistic, R&D wise, okay. But when you are already planning to release something, you should have at least a dedicated QA to look at it. Because no matter how much time the developers are putting into the development and they say they're doing dev testing, it's a different mindset when you
Dev
have
testing. I love how she just said dev testing. Okay.
I'm sorry, but I've been a dev also. But I know how you think, diba? It's different.
I
And
would have to
you
agree.
can just
Yeah.
ask, I've been training some devs already and even right now to do pwedeng ano nga lang creating tests and automation. Yes, automation, they can get it because that's technical. But when you are asking them, what can you automate? How are you going to test this? That's where they find it difficult because the creativity is not innate for everyone. So the answer to that, medyo maba, is
Release.
to hire when you are planning to release something. So of course,
Yeah.
give them enough time then to test. Especially kung waterfall pa rin yung approach, maybe agahan. Hindi siya
Yeah.
yung parang we're already done development, so we have 1 week to release. So you can test this for 1 week. So give them time as well because the quality is impacted then when we are not giving them enough time. And
Yeah.
then for the second question, which company to go to when you're fresh grad, depends on how you want to grow. So if you want to be like may parang hand holding na parang I'll teach you the ropes, ganyan na you will go through boot camps. You might as well go to the enterprises like Accenture. They always have boot camps regardless of the role na pupuntahan mo. But if you want yung mga kasi yung enterprises din, yung big companies, these are established. They have their own processes. They have their own tools already. You just follow them. So follow suit. But if you want to be part of how it's like the culture of quality will be honed, then go to the startups. Regardless if you are a fresh
Interesting.
grad or an experienced QA or QE, go to the startups because you can make a change in how they do things. And at the same time, if you want, as mentioned kanina, if you really want to stretch yourself na, I want to learn to automate things na, kunyari, Android, iOS, ganyan. Hindi parang web. Ako, for the longest time yung first half of my career, it was just web application yung focus, functional test. But if you are gonna be part of a startup, I don't think you can select any platform
Mm.
na parang I'll be an iOS QE or I'm gonna be an Android QE. No,
Yeah.
you're gonna be a QE, a
Yeah.
QE for all
Lahat.
the platforms
Oo.
for all the products. So
Yeah.
it depends how you want to grow. Ayan.
Interesting answer. Interesting
Nakakatakot ba?
answer. Hindi naman. I think it's actually tama, no? And I guess ang opinion ko dun sa first answer or sa first question ni Albert is that if for example that you cannot afford to have a dedicated resource to do QA or QE, at least upskill, no, the current
Yes.
either the product manager or the project manager or the developer, upskill them in testing, no? Kasi there is a process or siguro kahit sabihin mong standards, no, of how these things should be done. Para yun nga to make sure na before software is released in production or public, there's some level of quality before it touches the actual users right away. And for the second one naman, so yeah, I think I agree. I agree. Nothing to add there. There's a comment here on live na sabi ni
Let's go.
Mac Ariel Mancenido Gagan.
Hi, Mac.
It's so fulfilling to find bugs. It's like
Yes.
drugs to him daw. And then I think ang sagot niya kanina sa when to hire QE or QA is
It's
ASAP.
ASAP. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Oo, oo.
It's of course it's ideal talaga to hire QEs as soon as you are building the team. But yun nga, unfortunately, especially for the startups, it's not the same parang urgency. But you will feel the difference. Kunyari, pag first release niyo pa lang, when you have dedicated resources to test it. As in real QEs or QAs whose main task is really to find the challenges, the problems, the
Yeah.
risks, that would make a lot of difference. You will see in your reviews or feedback sa clients.
Yeah.
Hi, Mac.
It seems like a common theme, Bert, no, na like every time we ask this question, like how do you approach your career? It's always that if you want to have like uh, a wider set of experiences and experimentation, you really want to go to a startup. But then if you want some form of order or you want to specialize in something, then that's when the enterprise is actually the better option for you. So it depends sa
Yeah.
inyo wherever you guys are in your career, I guess.
That's
Ayan,
beginning to
ayan.
become like the main differentiator. That I'm
Correct, correct.
seeing past our
Correct.
episodes.
Correct, correct.
Um,
Common siya. Go ahead, Bert.
I have another. So I'll just keep asking the questions that we
Go
have.
ahead.
So you've described a day, like skills. What kind of skills,
Mm.
both hard, soft, whatever you call it, skills in general, that a
Yeah.
person should have, where they you think they would definitely fit being a QE, and what are kind of like the deal breakers, right? Like what are like
Mm.
if your pet peeve is this and that, then you should not go to QE.
Okay.
I
For the
like the smirk.
skills,
She's like, already know some people.
for
Parang may
the
mga name siyang
skills,
naisip.
um, for the skills, of course, ito na yung mga parang usual na naririnig natin yung analytical, yung uh, critical thinking. Pag, of course, requirements pa lang, you should be able to find out if it makes sense, is it conflicting with something else. And then, of course, yung creativity to find ways to find bugs or potential risks. Kasi sometimes, hindi naman, of course, kahit kunyari, you're looking at a user story, not all of the things that you need to know are in the acceptance criteria, right? Because it's just how many items in the acceptance criteria. But then, you need to think during the grooming, you're already thinking that, okay, how am I gonna test this? How else can a user use this? So yung creativity talaga plays a big part. At the same time, analytical thinking. What if where are the information coming from? What are the dependencies? So those things are also running in your mind. So parang meron ka ng architect na background, so architectural background, at the same time requirements analysis. So it's like a combination of different roles talaga in one, especially if you're a QE. Um, of course, technical skills, coding. If you want to be a QE, you need to be able to program like in different languages.
I have a question on this one because my assumption, I don't know if this is accurate, but my assumption or my sense is that usually people like they take a 4 year course in programming. If they don't like programming, they're not like no, they are not so into the actual programming. They then go into like the QA, which I guess is the manual testing role, right? They go into QA.
Sumakit yung ulo
So
ni.
how
Bye,
much
guys.
technical skills do you need now? How important is it? How the level? Like if you put the level, is it the same as a dev or is it somewhere in between or not necessary? Like what are your thoughts on this?
Not on the hindi naman sobra like architect level, like a programmer's architect level, but a solid programming background so that you can automate, so that you also understand what are tags, how can I locate the selectors or variables, should I use CSS, XPath, and so on. Those kinds of things kasi yun very important pa yun sa automation. So as long as you can you have a solid foundation, that would work kasi everyone naman parang 'di ba parang hindi man magaling agad. But of course, the more that you become more technical, the more that you'll be more efficient in creating automation frameworks, the more that you will be able to understand how to automate or test specific or more technical functionalities. Kunyari, lalo na pag kunyari mga machine learning, di ba? Hindi naman siya parang nakikita ko to, I see this and then because of the formula, it's gonna be like this. So those things depends na rin. It depends on where you want to be, how technical you want to be. There are specializations, although yung specialization for QE are performance testing, security testing. But when you are a quality engineer, you need to have all like manual testing, automation for web API, Android, iOS, performance and security testing, and then usability testing. So, di ba, we're always saying na it should be user-friendly, but how do you test user-friendly? Di ba? You need
Mm.
to understand how is the user gonna use this? How would they feel when they use this? So, there's a parang different ingredients to make a good QE. And that's also the reason why we call ourselves QE 360, because when the QE role started to pick up, they would already say that I'm a QE just because I can automate web apps, web applications. But it's not just web applications. There's also API, security, and performance. So it's holistic.
Yeah,
So it's not
interesting
just
that you said that. Kasi parang nag-crossover na siya to a product designer or a UX designer, no? Kasi parang, because these guys actually, they do like UX audits as well, no?
mm,
Na parang how, like what you said, no? Parang when we say user-friendly, how do you say it's user-friendly? How do you say it? Like, I always hear this before na nakakatawa and naiinis ako lagi na dapat 3 taps lang to anything, no? Parang ganun. Those things, so, ang galing na it touches on that as well. So it's not, so
yes.
that's why it's 360 pala, QE 360, because it touches the whole thing. Even design, even usability is
Yes.
actually part of quality assurance now. Okay, okay, okay.
That's like a lot, right? I don't know if
Yeah,
you were gonna
yeah.
add more to your list. Are you gonna add more to your list of skills?
Tama na. Baka
Yeah.
matakot
So
Wala
sila.
na, wala na
maybe like what's your
mag-QA.
top fresh grad? What's your
Mm.
top three skills that they need to have so that they like
Okay.
can say like I will fit.
I know that for a fact that they don't have the testing background. Even from school, di ba? Hindi siya
Mm,
usually discussed. So, coding foundation, uh,
okay.
written and verbal skills, communication skills. Because
At
they,
parang nag-hesitate.
ano, hindi. Hindi ako nag-hesitate. Baka internet. Pero,
Ah,
it's
okay.
very important to have good verbal and written communication skills because you're writing tests that everyone should be able to understand. At the same time,
Okay.
when you are analyzing requirements or acceptance criteria, you should be able to verbalize what's missing, what should be improved, and how can it be improved. And
Yeah.
even lalo na when we're discussing bugs, I cannot just file a bug that I'm the only one who can understand it, and then when I give it to the devs, they will say,
Huh?
I don't get this."
Uh-uh.
So yeah, those are very three critical things, and then at the same time, yung fourth ko, sorry, I have to add this
Sure.
assertiveness. When
Okay.
you're
Hmm.
filing bugs, and then of course, especially if you're a fresh grad, the lead developers or the more senior developers, they would say, this is not a
True.
bug. This is a feature. This how it's supposed to work. So how are you going to say that this is a bug if you
Hmm.
are not assertive, especially if you're a fresh grad? They will just say, okay, sir, okay, ma'am, it's not a bug. I'm gonna close this. So you need to have that as well.
Takbo ka sa product manager. Oo.
Matapang
Usually, bata pa yun.
is a
Dapat
skill
kailangan.
Yeah.
requirement.
Oo, for
I like
quality.
that.
Oo, oo, oo.
Okay. How would you know if QE is definitely not for you? Like what are the
Good
skills
question. Good
that
question.
your pet peeves or whatever, like how would you know this career consider something else if you're like this or yeah.
If for QE sige, let's say kasi dalawa yun eh. Especially for fresh grads, QA, manual tester. If you don't like writing tests, like if you hate English subject, that most likely medyo mahirapan ka kasi you're gonna write tests. And at the same time, um, bugs, diba? Those things require communication skills. For QE naman, if you do not enjoy coding, programming, then it's not for you. And for both, if you don't like repetitive or routinary activities because you're gonna
Totoo.
do the same thing, requirements analysis, writing the test, writing automation scripts, reporting bugs, and regression. Regression alone, say if you're in a manual tester, you're regressing like a big application, like for 2 months, wala na. You're gonna be skipping lots of tests and gonna think that I've already seen this pass, and then that's when the bugs start slipping. So if you don't like those things, then it's not for you. I already know if they interview pa lang, if they are not suitable to become a QE. If they tell me that I'm applying for this position, ma'am, because I don't like programming. I'm not a good developer. developer. I was like, okay, there's the door. It's like a slap on my face. Parang, well, this is not a second-rated job, This is the same, if not better. Diba? You cannot just go to me and say because I'm not a good developer. So QE is not for you if you feel that way.
Interesting kasi kanina 'di ba it's they're always pitted against each other. But really to do well in this job, you have to be a very good engineer, a
Yes.
developer, and think like an engineer. But at the same time, there's additional skills needed for you to function well as a QE, I guess. Question, Mitch. What were the worst career mistakes, I guess, that you've seen either your QAs or QEs done before? Or like, I don't know if ikaw din may share ka ba na something that you've regretted in your career and advice to people in their like either their QAs or QEs now. What would you think would be the things to avoid?
Okay. The first thing that I remember actually is that being too complacent. That I've been a QA for 10 years. I'm already good with this career. This is the last career I'm gonna be on. Like I'm gonna be a QA forever as long as I'm working. Because you already know that the applications are becoming more complex. And yun nga, mobile app pa lang, mobile application. You cannot just always test different devices na in front of you, testing one by one manually because there will be bug slipping and it's not time efficient. You're gonna be stressed na I need to finish this by this time, but I still have lots of devices to test. The second thing that I remember is the opposite naman, being too proud or you think that you know everything. Like I'm already a lead QE. I already know everything, and I don't need to study because I'm just gonna teach them how to do things. Because there will be new applications, and there will be like, what if your application, your company is producing like web applications or mobile banking apps, but then it suddenly shifted, say machine learning or AR, VR, how are you gonna support that? Diba? Parang ako nga nun, I think it's the first conference I've talked to na ang example ko was a football application app. So how are you gonna test that? Parang you need a VR goggle. So for you to test that, parang gano'n ka na gano'n. Parang kick ka ng kick kasi you're just using the goggle to move eh. So by the time makapag-release ka, baka may stiff neck ka na. Yes, or parang na-paralyze ka na, di ba? Tapos biglang 2 weeks or 2 days before the release, sabihin nung PO, ay sorry guys, kailangan pa natin i-resize, patay. Ulitin mo na naman yun, tapos gano'n ka na naman ng ganyan. Ayun. What else?
That's funny.
I think yun yung naalala ko. Basta parang becoming too complacent, and yung opposite naman na parang know it all. Because you never stop learning as a QE because you don't know what's the next project you're gonna support or the next platform you need to support.
Biggest challenges for a QA or QE. I have one that I'm reserving actually. After you answer this question, I want to get your thoughts on this one. Biggest challenges. Yeah.
Biggest challenges talaga kasi marami.
Sige, isa lang.
Isa lang.
Oo. Go ahead. Anything.
One is requirements are changing. So it's not just for QE naman even for the devs, diba? Change in requirements, like you've already created your test or automation and then suddenly it changes. 2 is dev slips or delays from the devs. Tapos the timeline for release is not moving. And of course, not enough resources. Na parang you want to deliver fast but then you don't have enough resources like pwedeng manpower, time, tools. Another one, yung mga Anong tawag dito? Yung on the spot na parang promos, yung mga marketing,
Ah,
bigla na lang, they will say, oh, we need to do this. Parang they go straight to the developers without telling anyone. And then the developer just accepted the task. And then suddenly
oo.
you have more things to test.
Parang
So,
unplanned.
yep.
Yeah, yeah. I guess common talaga siya ano, na gano'n.
Yeah.
My thought, no, is related to number two. Actually, you mentioned na, things happen and like may mga dev slips or unplanned things that happen, and yet the timelines don't move. What's your thought? What are your thoughts on parang business call na lang yan, parang ganon? So like there are times naman talaga no, and again parang negotiating to no, and in between companies and different enterprises, it could vary. Like what's the threshold? Do we say 85% tested, good, or hindi, pagka hindi tayo nag-90, hindi tayo magre-release? And you mentioned assertiveness kanina, di ba? So
Yep.
how do you deal with that? Like when the business owner or the product owner mentions na, "Okay na 'yan, ihahabol na lang natin 'yan." Is that a challenge? How do you deal with that as a QA or QE?
Yeah, it is definitely a challenge. Not just for me na parang manager level do sa company, even for more so sa mga staff talaga within the teams. What we do is, of course, we have yung recommend or reject na release. Kunyari, they have a build and then we tested it and then we have a status to say na for this build, we are not recommending this to be released, or we are recommending this. The quality level depends on the agreement between the product owner and the team. Like, are we releasing bugs like low lang, or kahit medium, meron papasok doon, and we're okay with that. It depends on the maturity of the application as well. That we're already maintenance stage, and we can only allow low severity bugs. But what we do talaga is, if they're gonna say na, no Mitch, we need to release this, then we're gonna have a written uh,
Pinapasign 'no?
yes, written
Oo, na
document
eyes
na
wide
parang,
open, alam niyo 'yan,
you know what's gonna happen, this is the risk, so you're accepting this, and you're not gonna ask us what happened. Of course, I'm not saying
Interesting.
them that not gonna ask this, but
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is what you're accepting, and these
No,
are the
correct, correct, correct. Yeah, it's just proper documentation, right?
yes.
Kasi, I don't know,
Kami
like
lang titingnan eh.
Di totoo totoo din 'yan. Like especially for highly regulated industries, the regulators would come and say, "Hey, they've identified that there's actually this bug or major finding, and yet you guys went to production. So there has to
Yes.
be some form of documentation."
Yep.
It's not really like cover your ass, guys. But it's really more to document that there was
Yes.
that decision made
An
within the
agreement.
team, no? And as a team, we've made that decision na eyes wide open, we could be experiencing these risks. Acceptance criteria is the key, sabi ni Doc Diaz.
Ni
Correct,
Doc.
correct, correct. Oo, ayan. So, comment seen. Yeah, yeah, interesting, interesting. Albert, any more questions for Mitch?
Well, to be honest, I'm learning a lot. So kind of like my mind is like thinking like, how do I apply this in the company? Like, how do I start doing this? So,
Oo.
Hire
so for
us.
example, yeah, maybe I
This is
can
the
like,
pitch.
well, we have like 8 minutes left. Like, what do you think companies should do? Like, if they're thinking about getting free consulting, no? Like, what do you think companies should do when they're thinking of like, should they do QE? Like, how do they transition into this? I guess it's like there's gonna be a culture shift as well,
Yes.
right? Culture shift, mindset shift, process shift. What are the things to consider?
Consider
How
the
does
things.
how does a company like dip their toes and
Mm-mm.
consider like, ang hirap naman ito, tawagin natin si Mitch.
Yes. Um, it's okay naman kasi the same with other services, diba? Some companies, they would try it themselves, like give themselves time if they have the time.
Mm-mm.
But of course, if you already know, like back in Voyager, they already know they're a mobile first company, and manual testing won't cut it. And if they don't have the resources with na parang yung skills to level up, or skills to train others na we need to do this, or even yung process improvement and how to transition not just the QE team or QA to QE team, but also the Scrum team, because there are changes, and even the management, that of course there will be automation. And it doesn't mean that when we say it's already we're automating everything is fast. Of course there's an investment to build the framework, to build the scripts, the tests, before you can say that you can leverage on the automation scripts. So it's up to you, how much time do you have, how do you have the right resources, the skills to do it, or how do you do it talaga, parang from QA to QE. Kasi there are people, ayun, I know, I've been with the company na they wanted to transition their QAs to QEs, and there will be no QA left.
Oh.
Imagine that, right? What are you gonna do with them? Because as mentioned, not all QAs would become or would be suitable QEs, because some of them are just happy doing manual testing and they will not be comfortable or even happy to do technical things. So how do you do that? So if you know how to utilize them in other roles, then it's okay. But if kasi they can be a product owner, they can be a designer, 'di ba? They can be a system analyst kung meron sila sa company. But some of them talaga, especially for those na they've been a QA for 10 years and so, ano na sila, parang this is my bread and butter. You're taking it away from me. That's how they see it. So if you don't know how to make them see the value of transitioning to QE, then it's gonna be a headache. Baka maging dole case pa to. Kasi di ba, parang you remove me because I'm a QA, right? That's gonna be something to deal with.
So you also deal with that in your consulting?
No.
Like, I thought you were like,
outside the shop.
Hindi yung mga pink slips, but that's something. Yung transition QAs to QEs, yes, I help them through training, consulting, parang ano yung roadmaps, how do we do this, what are we gonna do if we find people who are really not suitable. Like, I can recommend them na parang I think this person is will be a good product owner, will be a good designer. That's where it ends now, recommendations, but I'm not gonna do the transition to product or business and so on.
Got it.
Yeah,
Maybe we can end around this topic, right? Like, what does QA 360 do? How does it help companies? You know, what do you do, like, in detail? And maybe this, like if people are listening here, like considering like they have a company or they're part of management, they what can they say? And like, hey, we should definitely get this hired, Mitch's team.
If yun nga, parang what I mentioned earlier, if you are a company with a tight deadline, you want to improve the quality of your applications, you've been seeing your Google Play Store, App Store reviews na medyo 3 and below, you already know that your resources are not enough. Pwedeng headcount, pwedeng skills. So we offer the outsourced testing, pwedeng manual and automation or automation. And we also train people so that you leverage with the current resources you have and give them the right skill that you need, especially for those na are more aggressive or more complex applications na hindi na-develop. Consulting, training, and outsource testing. Yeah. So if you need help on that, we also do actually provide free initial consultation calls to help you identify which service do you actually need, or do you even need one.
Parang assessment.
Yes. We do assessment on your team, wherein we have like a 2-hour call with representatives from the dev, the QAs, and understand what are the challenges, and then we will provide you the recommendations.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I can attest to all these things that Mitch is saying, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah. So further comments on the comment section. So I think effective transitioning from QA to QE should be a self-realization rather than a
Yes.
mandate. Yeah, agree. And anything naman like in your career, if you're forced, parang mahirap yon.
Yes.
Sabi ni Doc Diaz, on point. So, with that, I guess any final words, Mitch, to close the episode for everyone, for all the viewers?
Okay. First, if you are QA and you want to transition to QE, you can join our community. It's on Facebook. It's called QE is the new QA. Or if you are a company needing help in software quality, you can contact us or you can go to our website. It's www.que-360.com. And
Sorry,
for
what was that?
final
What was that? Let's pull it
Kaya na.
up. www
May
dot.
customer ka na ata, Mitch.
www.
QE-360.
Yeah, I'll put it this comments. Can I do that? I know.
Yeah, go ahead. Right.
www.que-360.com. Yeah. I put it in the
www.qe-360.com.
private chat. Yeah.
There you
Ayan,
go.
nakalagay na sa public.
Ayan, thank
Tama,
you.
tama yan.
Yes.
Okay.
Ayan. For final thoughts, especially for those people who are thinking of career shifting or graduating and thinking of the career they're gonna start with, for sure QE is not for everyone. As you've heard, there are
Mm.
iba nga natatakot na pag sinasabi yung mga challenges.
Mataas
But
yung level.
yes, if you want to stretch yourself, na parang you're not the same with your batch, like they're all becoming this role, but you want to be able to support different roles, like you're supporting an Android developer, web, API, iOS developer, and even the product, diba?
Pati
Kasi
VR. Pati VR.
yes, diba? If you want to challenge yourself and you feel that you're gonna grow as you are being stretched, then this is for you. Because for sure, this is not for those na parang doesn't want coding, doesn't want veterinary things. But if you want to challenge, yung parang everyday you feel challenged, but at the same time, you feel that you're making a change, you're putting that quality into the daily lives of the end users, then this is for you. Kung marami kang reklamo sa buhay, if you see those nuances, parang I don't want this, then you can check out this career. Ayun. Huwag kayong matakot. Nakakatakot ang magsalita.
I heard it. Kung mahilig ka maghanap ng problema.
Yeah. Actually, if you enjoy that, if yung sa mga bata, yung spot the difference, if you like that, then if you're an adult and you like looking at, this can be better if we do this.
Interesting.
It's not just the software developers, the solutions provider. They're not just the provider, solution provider, but you can do that too as a QE.
Yeah.
Ayan.
That's very important din kasi yung parang identification of the problem, right? Yeah. So,
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mitch, for joining us tonight. No, maybe in other episodes, you guys can join with the QE is the new QA community.
Yes.
Collab with CTOs Discuss.
Yes, please.
Anything else from you, Bert, to close us tonight?
No, I just want to thank Mitch. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. To be honest, I would just like to say like a whole new world kind of opened up for me. So thank you so much for doing this with us tonight. I'm sure like the people watching also this is
for sure
opened up their minds about these possibilities here. And to be honest, I found like my mind is now just transitioning from QA to QE. So even my mind now is like QE is now the QA.
I saw your face earlier eh. It's like in the zone. Or nag-ano
yeah.
Grabe
Nag-ano na yung
focus ni Albert.
mga wheels.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you so much also guys for joining us this evening. If you guys have any questions, put it in the comment section and then Mitch, Albert and I would do our best to answer them. We'll see you on the next episode of CTOs Discuss. Again, same time, same day. Next week, Saturday, 7 p.m. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I've seen that hinders a lot of people in general is they believe that doing their job well actually gets them promoted.
How would you demystify AI for a 10-year-old?
It's actually harder to explain AI to an older person. Hi, welcome to CTOs Discuss.
So you want to work in big tech companies like Google and Facebook, or create your own startup like Airbnb and Instagram? OmniQuotient is here to help. OmniQuotient is an online learning platform where you can learn something new from prominent developers every day while creating meaningful connections with them. Just go to omniquotient.com. Follow the topics that you want to learn and the developers you want to learn from. Share your tips and tricks in coding and interact with other developers. Join the OmniQuotient community today.